Alex Hutchinson is a name that's made a lot of headlines over the past 24 hours after he posted a comment that proved to be wildly unpopular. Now, I want to clarify something because apparently there's some confusion as to what his role is at Stadia. He is not the boss of Stadia. He's a creative director at Stadia. More specifically, the Stadia Games and Entertainment Montreal studio. He is the head of that specific studio. He recently changed his title from creative director at Google Stadia, which caused confusion, to creative director at Stadia Games and Entertainment Montreal studio. In case you were confused about that, that's that. But you can see right here, the ratio has only gotten worse. So this unpopular comment right here, almost 5,000 likes versus over 17,000 comments, which suggests that people are not happy at all about the suggestion that Alex made, which was that streamers should be worried about their content getting pulled if publishers decide to enforce copyright laws, adding that, quote, "The real truth is that streamers should be paying developers and publishers of the games they stream. They should be buying a license like any real business and paying for the content they use." This is just a completely ass-backwards way of thinking. As I mentioned in my last video, the amount of promotion and exposure that big streamers and content creators and even a spread of smaller creators provide for a game is just far more valuable than forcing creators to pay a licensing fee. Streamers and creators tend to either receive a free copy from a company because most game companies actually want people to be putting content out there and streaming and keeping the hype alive for a game, or the creator will buy the game for themselves and then stream it and provide exposure for that title. Now, legally speaking, in terms of what's written in the law, yes, game publishers could go after creators if they wanted, and they'd probably be able to make a case based on how the law is written now, though that would largely depend, of course, on whether a specific content is transformative enough, whether it falls under fair use. But publishers don't do that because they understand the benefits of creators and streamers putting content of their game out there. That's why game companies are always so keen on providing copies of their games to certain streamers and creators, and it's why sometimes they'll pay big bucks for the biggest names in the content creation landscape or in the streaming landscape to play their game, to talk about it, to cover it. The thing that gets me about Alex's comments is that he makes it seem as though streamers are exploiting video game developers and their creations when time and again, especially when a game is good, they've actually helped boost sales and, spread the word about this game that many people would have otherwise not known about or not tried it out. Alex goes as far as to say that most of the time playing the game just helps the streamer. People tune in to watch their show, which is built on content they didn't pay for. If their show requires game content, then a percentage of their revenue should go to the game they used. This is absolutely false. It is a symbiotic relationship. Both parties benefit. That's why this works out so well. Content creators get to have a number of ways to provide entertainment via these different titles, and at the same time, those games will get some level of exposure, and that symbiosis, that mutual benefit, is why, regardless of how the law is written, publishers want streamers and creators to make content. And Stadia is all about the integration with influencers and YouTube and, capabilities like influencers being able to provide links that then players can click on to join their sessions, stuff like that. Alex's proposal would put a huge dent on Stadia's own endeavors with how they're trying to integrate Stadia into the gaming market. And guess what? Stadia agrees because they recently put out a statement in response to what Alex tweeted, and they flat out decided to distance themselves from what Alex said. So here's the official statement from a Google Stadia spokesperson who said, "The recent tweets by Alex Hutchinson, creative director at the Montreal studio of Stadia Games and Entertainment, do not reflect those of Stadia, YouTube, or Google." And speaking of YouTube, here's a statement from Ryan Wyatt, who is YouTube's lead over gaming, commerce, and immersive. He tweeted out something that was completely counter to what Alex had to say, stating, "We believe that publishers and creators have a wonderful symbiotic relationship Indeed, that has allowed a thriving ecosystem to be created, one that has mutually benefited everyone. YouTube is focused on creating value for creators, publishers, and users. All ships rise when we work together. I couldn't have put it better myself. You can analyze the copyright laws all you want, but the fact of the matter is that what's going on right now with the relationship between developers, streamers and content creators and communities, the symbiosis going on there has been beneficial for everyone. Again, developers get more exposure, creators get more avenues to entertain and create content, and the community gets to find, people they trust to either stay updated about a game or to see a game in action and get some entertainment out of it and potentially consider buying that game as a result of that exposure. This is something that even the heads of Stadia, YouTube, and Google understand. And in fact, they are heavily relying on influencers to integrate Stadia with YouTube and make that work synergistically. Like, the last thing Stadia needs right now is the suggestion from someone who is under the Stadia umbrella and pretty high up as one of the creative directors that creators and streamers are going to get charged a licensing fee if they want to stream or create content off of a game, when what these creators are doing is providing free advertisement, free promotion, free exposure. The benefits of creators organically discovering a game, playing that game, and being genuinely entertained by it, and how that resonates with an audience, like that kind of exposure is priceless. And it's gone a long way in causing an explosive growth in the games industry as a whole. Those benefits far outweigh this idea of charging creators to stream certain games and potentially disincentivizing them from actually covering that specific game that's charging them to stream it or to create content for it. It has to be organic, and for a game to truly experience explosive growth, streamers, creators, and people in general need to feel a semblance of safety in being able to share content about that game, being able to react to that game, and those reactions resonate and can turn into a huge boost in sales. And the only one who doesn't seem to be able to get with the program is Alex Hutchinson here, who goes counter to even what Stadia and YouTube and Google are trying to do with their platforms. Now, I've heard a very small crowd of people come in defense for Alex by stating that, well, if a content creator or streamer just, plays the entirety of a story-driven single-player linear game, then there's going to be no motivation for viewers to actually buy that game, and that might actually prove to be detrimental to that developer. My response to that is, if I put a game out there, I would much rather that 10% of millions of views translate to sales than 100% of a smaller crowd of 100 or 1,000. Yeah, it's entirely possible that a lot of people will just look at the whole playthrough and then experience the full story and just be like, well, I'm done with that. I don't have to buy the game anymore. But even just a small percentage of those huge views, buying the game greatly benefits. And you also got to think of it long term. Maybe those people who didn't buy the game because they saw a content creator play through it will find out about a sequel or a new game that the same developer is making. And next time around, they might go, I might actually buy the game since I saw the creator play it. I found it entertaining. Maybe I'll play it and then see how the creator reacts, how this YouTuber or the streamer reacts. And so you make your game and your studio and your endeavors known by having streamers and creators bring exposure to it, by shining a spotlight on it, and that creates long-term impressions. Just across the board, the benefits of streamers and creators playing your game and feeling safe in making content for your game vastly outweighs any potential negatives. Without this symbiotic relationship, some of the biggest games today would not be as big as they are today, and certain indie gems would have never been discovered. I could go on and on. Now, beyond Stadia and YouTube and Google, it should come as no surprise that a number of content creators and streamers have responded. Obviously, I made a whole video about it, but huge, major content creators, influencers, streamers also chimed in, namely Jacksepticeye, who kind of pointed out the extreme irony that the banner on Alex Hutchinson's Twitter page is that of a fan art highlighting Jacksepticeye, who played Journey to the Savage Planet, which is in fact one of the games that Alex Hutchinson was involved in. And so Jacksepticeye tweeted, "I find this thinking extremely ironic considering you have fan art of me, a streamer, as your banner from when I played Savage Planet, which no doubt significantly signal boosted that game." And then Jacksepticeye also noted, "You've even cropped out their watermark in the banner and haven't given them credit for it anywhere. Very hypocritical." And yeah, if you go to Alex Hutchinson's account and click on his banner, you'll see that the signature has been cropped out from this fan art of the streamer who played one of his games and signal boosted his game. It's just, you cannot make this up. And in response to Jacksepticeye's tweet, many in the games industry have responded, showing support for Jacksepticeye, highlighting the irony and a bit of the hypocrisy of Alex Hutchinson, with people like Alana Pierce and Jeff Keighley kind of chiming in. And scrolling further down through Alex's Twitter thread, you'll find plenty of other well-known names kind of chiming in and expressing their dissent and disapproval of what Alex is suggesting here. Frickin' Mr. Beast chimed in to participate in the ratioing of this Twitter thread. Dr. Disrespect went out of his way to highlight Alex's tweet and kind of make fun of it. You've got Gothaline, who said a lot of people quote tweeting this hot take about how streamers should need a license from publishers to stream their games. I think we should be more concerned that anyone that works at Google Stadia is giving business advice. And then here's Landon, who posted 2 screenshots showing the stats for Among Us, stating streamers don't play game versus streamers play game, pay streamer. And yeah, you can see right here the state of Among Us before streamers started playing it. The player base was sort of in the hundreds, and then once a few streamers picked it up, the results shifted upwards dramatically, with peak players of up to 438,000, just a ridiculous boost. The point being that Alex's suggestion that streamers benefit from games and not the other way around is completely asinine. Again, it's a symbiotic relationship. Streamers are benefiting because Among Us lends itself to fun, cooperative/competitive gameplay, and then Among Us is benefiting because those streamers are spotlighting that game and signal boosting it to the point where now hundreds of thousands play every day. It's this win-win situation that Alex is painting as if only streamers ultimately benefit and game developers are being exploited or taken advantage of somehow by streamers because they're not shelling out some kind of fee to play that game online, despite those same people either having received that game for free from a developer or publisher or having bought the game with their own money. Beyond that, a number of journalists have chimed in, with Jason Schreier expressing his disapproval. You've got Danny O'Dwyer expressing his disapproval. Honestly, just about every facet of the games industry seems to agree that Alex is way behind with the times and that this idea of his is way out of touch with reality, even to the point where his own employer decided to adamantly express that they fully disagree with what Alex is saying here, fully distancing themselves from what Alex tweeted out, as again, it's counterintuitive to Stadia's own endeavors with this platform. It's just so bizarre to have someone in the Stadia team who's under Google, which also owns YouTube, which obviously encourages streamers and creators to put content out there. It's strange for a Stadia person, someone who works under the Stadia umbrella, to be like, yeah, let me put this idea out there that completely goes against what Stadia and YouTube are trying to go for. So yeah, the guy's drawn a lot of backlash with this suggestion, and because he initially labeled himself as creative director at Google Stadia, that caused confusion. The confusion caused a lot of people to associate his statement with the Stadia brand, and so Stadia as a platform is facing negative PR, which is the last thing they need given the poor state of the platform right now. And given that, again, what Alex said so heavily stands against what Stadia's endeavors are, it's just been a bit of an unfortunate shitstorm caused by what, in my opinion, is a pretty awful take. But at the end of the day, Stadia, YouTube, and Google have come out and said, yeah, we're not on board with what Alex is saying here, so That's something worth noting. That's all I have to say about the matter, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Alex's comments and Stadia and YouTube's response to all this. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.